Welcome to Fat Cat production of News with a View, hosted by John A. Costa, me. Today is July 25th, 2025. This is episode 111. Yesterday's show was an abbreviation of episode 109, just a little bit toned down a bit than the live show. Live show was very, very interesting. So if you want to look at that, look at my live feed from the 24th. The 12:30 a.m. one. I let loose on some people that needed to be let loose on. All right, today we're going to be talking about 5 issues. The Center for American Rights, an article from The Wrap. We'll talk about that. Skydance merger, okay, it was approved by the FCC. So the Paramount Skydance merger will go through, barring any problems with, of course, the Department of Justice probably has to look at all that stuff too. Liberals are probably on rooftops, so look up while you're walking down the street because they'll be throwing themselves off buildings. We'll be talking about a lot of things to do with the Skydance and Paramount, and really not too much, just some things that are in the news with it. We're going to talk about Emil Bove, who Bove is picked for the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, and the Democrats didn't like that. Wow. I'm shocked, I tell you, shocked. Fox News had an interesting article. I'll go through that about the money collected during a concert held for the benefit of the victims of the California fires. And from the Wall Street Journal, foul-mouthed podcast tour. Hunter Biden warns Democrats he won't go quietly. Meth is a heck of a drug. And then we'll do President Trump signs an executive order that makes it easier for states to house and hold some of the homeless who are a threat to themselves and the public around them, and who have mental health or drug addiction problems, that they're going to be forced into centers. So that's going to be interesting, because the ACLU, back in the early 70s and 60s, late 60s, fought to have all those places, all those asylums and everything emptied out. And so thank you, ACLU. You made our streets so much safer and cleaner too. Bob, you're not going to like this episode. Just a little tidbit there. Bob had a problem with my 1 a.m. show the other night. Said I was losing it because I had the nerve to call Sonny Hostin from The View a stupid woman. Now, Bob, if you know that she's not a woman, let me know, and I'll correct that. And he said I was very bitter. It was a mean John. Which I do admit sometimes that does happen. But usually I taper it. But she was so stupid and so off base and so just completely wrong that beyond, and I'll get back to that because that whole group pisses me off. But they have the right, mind you. They have the right to do that. You can see my hands are. I was painting. Right before I did all this, I printed all this up this morning. I did all my research at 7:30 this morning for today's show. But my wife was painting something, and I was watching it and just going, no, that's going to end up a disaster. And usually she's very good at everything she does. Painting's not one of them. And when I say painting, I'm not, artistic. I'm talking slapping stuff on a wall and going to town. All right, so the Center for American Rights calls for FCC investigation into late shows for ideological, one-sided programming. The conservative-leaning law firm claimed that ABC, CBS, NBC alleged persistent abuse of public airways is violating the agency's public interest standard. The Center for American Rights is taking aim at late night, calling for the FCC to investigate into ABC, CBS, NBC's persistent abuse of the public airwaves through ideological, one-sided programming. A letter to the FCC chairman, Brendan Carr. On Wednesday, the conservative-leaning law firm argued that Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, Jon Stewart collectively featured 106 liberal guests on their shows from January 6th to January 30th, 2025, compared to just one conservative guest. They left off a name, but that's okay. Now, I have a problem with this. Those shows are not news, just like Colbert's show is not news. I have no problem with him going up there and spouting erroneous and one-sided views. He shouldn't, but I have no problem with him doing it because it's not news. He's pandering to a certain audience, pandering badly because, I'm talking Colbert. I don't know what the numbers are for anyone else, dollar-wise in revenue loss, but, 30, 40, 50 million bucks a year. But regardless, if a company wants to sustain losses like that, the only people they need to answer to is the owner of that broadcasting firm or the shareholders, not the FCC. If they want to go out there and have a show that skews Trump or skewed Biden or screwed any of the presidents, have at it. That is not a misuse of the airways. That is not, it just isn't. It isn't. People are not forced to watch that program. The networks that produce these shows are not controlled by the government. In essence, through the FCC, but not of their political content. Now, they shouldn't be, but we know, of course, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, are politically aligned, as is Fox News politically aligned. When it comes down to the news, that's where one must be very careful, because the public trust. And I could see, the FCC coming in on some of these people, but not talk show. Who cares? I mean, people scream that, Colbert shouldn't be fired. It goes against democracy. No, it doesn't. It doesn't go against any of that stuff. It's a corporate decision. And, people saying, well, the corporate's saying, well, we lost $40 million, so that's why we do it. You don't need a reason. We're just not going to renew it. That's all. No explanation is needed. Now, people say the timing of such might make people perk up. And, once they hear that, he's been losing $40 million and they're talking about a merger and a new broom sweeps clean, yeah, all right, I can get there. We haven't heard anything that this was going to be, a must that, that Colbert had to go. So I don't like this. I don't like when this takes place. Now, we'll talk about The View in a second, but this is what happens. This is the result of stupid people doing stupid things, and then you get stupid results. People like Sonny Houston out there saying firing Colbert is a threat to our Constitution. How, hon? How? How? You're not even close to being right. And as I said, the FCC has approved the CBS Paramount Skydance, I keep doing it, Skydance merger. Skydance has also pledged to eliminate DEI at Paramount and appoint CBS News ombudsman to review complaints of bias. As for the elimination of the DEI programs, Sundance said new Paramount would no longer set numerical goals. We must have X amount of people here and X amount of people there. That it's going to go by the standard skills and ability, and everything else is set aside. Nothing related to race, ethnic, sex, or gender of a job application or the employees. And to avoid using any of those characteristics as criteria for internal promotions. So they're also closing the Office of Global Inclusion and will not have any teams or roles focused on DEI. Instead, the teams will focus on employee culture and engagement. So that's a good thing, right? Anyone have a problem with that? You get your job through skills and ability. I mean, who could have a problem with that? I can't see people having a problem with that because it's common sense. And, they say, well, they won't hire, minorities. These companies nowadays are looking for the best bang for the buck and people that can do the job. And if a green person is better than a purple person, well, the green person is going to get the job. because that's the way it should work. Now, of course, if that other person goes in there and go, yeah, I'm best for the job and I want $200,000, and they go, well, the job is really, you certainly would be an asset to this company. But our limit is about $125,000 to start, and we go from there. And if the guy goes, no, no, thank you, then they could look at another applicant and say, all right, we're going to try this guy. He doesn't check all the boxes, but I haven't gotten anyone else that checked all the boxes, and this guy's the top person who checked all those boxes, and he's willing to start at 125. Welcome aboard. That's the way it should work. When I was going from job to job, I had to go on interviews. You had to sell yourself. I was at an interview, the guy was asking me about stuff, and he goes, what does yellow mean on a resistor? And I said, depends on what band it's on. But yellow is 4. Now we can go from there. Yeah. What happens when you see gold at the end or silver at the end of a resistor? Well, that's what the accuracy rate is. 10%, 5%. No band or a black band at the end would be 20%. And things of that nature. So sometimes they would just throw that out just to see if and it's a simple question, but see how you answer it. I had a guy show me a picture. What does this signal mean to you? Well, it's a sinusoidal, goes up and down. I could tell, I don't know what your scope is set to, so I really can't tell you the frequency of it. But I could tell you it's, on the scale there, it's about 12 volts up and 12 volts down. So it's a 12 volt AC signal. But again, I can't tell you the frequency. Now, if it's hooked to a 60 cycle outlet, if they're taking it down in voltage, I would say it would be 60 cycles. And that guy was like, okay, great. When can you start? And at that job, I never saw an oscilloscope. So you never know when you go to an interview what you're going to be asked and what you're going to have to do and how you're going to do it. So the paramount is going by skills and ability. And a lot of companies are going to be doing that. A lot of companies are going to be looking at their programming to see if it aligns with what their goals are in the next 4 years. It's just going to be those type of eyeballs. Now, as I said with Colbert going away. Now, when I say that, I just want you to think for a second that come May, they might turn around and go, you know what? Hey, Steve, you want another year? Let's sit down and do some hard negotiations. Or 6 months, from there to go, that was a horrible decision. Let's see if we can get Colbert back and, maybe put some more money out on the table. We're big enough to say we made a mistake. You don't know. And all they did was give him the courtesy of saying, hey, I know normally 6 months before your contract expires, we sit down and we start preliminaries. You know, when is your guy going to talk to our guy, and let's sit down. We got to talk numbers, and they play up to it. So it could take 3 or 4 months of back and forth, mostly on a show like Colbert. Colbert's show, I mean, was a big money output and a big money input for that fact. There were years that he did very well for CBS. It's got to amount to something. So if CBS says we want to turn away from the type of programming we're doing at night to a more Craig Ferguson type of atmosphere, funny, slapstick, like Letterman was in the beginning, we want to go back to that. And there's no way your show can change course like that. So, off you go. Good luck. The timing, again, I say, this was coming, regardless of whatever happened with Trump and CBS and 60 Minutes. And I said this when Trump won the election. It was going to be a bad day for Colbert. Not that he would be fired. Honestly, I thought he'd be fired in April or May of this year. But they probably had no reason to let him go, that they could void his contract. And then it would still be litigation. So why bother? So he's on till May. Got 9 more months, 10 more months. Have at it. But I would restrict him. I'd have a lawyer from Standards and Practices there going, what are you talking about tonight, Jimmy? What, or Steve, what are we talking about, Steve? And his show is not live, so you don't have to worry about, a 3-minute delay or anything where you could hit a button and kill it for a couple of seconds. You just leave it on the edit room floor. And I think it would have been more creative and more funny, if every time he went into a rant and started something, they'd put something up there with a big X through, him going boing, 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 and then go back to it. And he goes, well, now that I've said that, and leave it up to the show to put it out in a paper on what he was saying. And CBS, bing, 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 they stopped it. I think that would be more creative and more funny. And more eyeballs would be watching it just to see him get boing, 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 boing. Or put up a little slide, oh, no, he didn't, or something like that, and go that way. I think he could have been much more creative that way. But after his episode of telling the president, F you, it shows that this guy might not be able to hold it back. And, you know, then it doesn't become funny anymore, and then we have to really take action. Hey, we asked you not to do that, and we stopped you, and we show you what we're going to do. And if you want to be outrageous, tell us you want to be outrageous, and we'll be part of that with you. But we don't want to be shocked. Because after a point, why bother? One might get through. Something might happen. You might say something, the people run out to the press. So, I just don't see the point of doing that. I knew this was going to happen. Hello. Who's calling? Okay, no, thank you. Yeah, it's my United Healthcare people calling me. I sent a message out to them, and I said, don't call me. So, they could have been more funny the other way, but they didn't, and he can't be trusted. So, all right. Let's go to the next point. I apologize for that phone call. I won't cut it out either out of it because it's live and it's there and it's funny and I should turn it off, but I didn't because there's always something going on with the family that they need to get in touch with the fat guy. Senate clears key Trump judicial pick after Democrats throw a tantrum. Emil Bove's appointment to serve as a judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit cleared a key procedural hurdle Thursday afternoon following Democrats' effort to derail his nomination. The Senate voted to advance Bove's nomination to a vote on final passage, 50 to 48, with two Republicans, Murkowski of Alaska and Susan Collins of Maine, joining the Democrats to no votes. Democrats fiercely opposed Bove's nomination to the bench and walked out on a debate on it at a committee level in an attempt to obstruct proceedings. So it doesn't really obstruct proceedings. They just walk out and they're not part of the proceedings. I mean, it's a drama type of thing, but you don't think Republicans have walked out of meetings? All got up and left or something? I mean, this is part of the dance of politics. So I see these things like this where, you know, the Democrats threw a tantrum. No, they didn't. They just do what they all do. I tell you, sir, outraged. Outraged am I. You know, and they all do it. It's a song and dance. I thought it was, who was it? Cory Booker who walked out or shouted something during the vote, you know, and screamed out there, no, shouted, yeah, he shouted, something, but I mean, it wasn't, a curse or anything like that. He just said, was, mad, and he could be mad. Schumer called Bove one of Donald Trump's nastiest judicial nominees to date, beyond unqualified for a seat in the Third Circuit during a speech at the Senate floor on Thursday. Schumer should be the last one casting a shadow on anyone, but that's what they do. That, and I've said this before, the Senate confirmation hearings is when you finally got the car that you want in a used car lot, and you have a used car salesman pitching that car to you. The old thing, you go around, you kick the tires, you look under the hood, you ask to see a couple more things with the car, because now you're a little bit more interested. Now you're kind of committing yourself into doing it, and that's what the Senate does. They get to kick the tires. So is this upsetting to anyone? The only thing I don't like is when they just preach lies or innuendos, or start quoting from a story that had no fact to it. And both sides do it. It's not a Democrat thing. It's not a Republican thing. It's just a thing of politics. So, so they advanced his appointment during a roll call vote. So he's going to be in. And that should be interesting. That is going to be interesting. I didn't talk too much about him because he was one of the lawyers too for Trump. And I think, he was accused of saying, don't follow what the judges are telling you, just do it. But that was never the case. That did not happen. No one ever said he did it. This was just reported, alleged from sources that aren't authorized to speak. From Fox News, Susan Pascoe, she did a piece. She was a contributor. I would say she was a guest, speaking about $100 million raised in January for fire victims in California never went to the victims of the fire. Now, the organization that did this concert and were helping people, said they were helping the victims. Hollywood elite and music icons performed for a fundraiser and collected these funds for the victims of the California fire. But the money went instead to non-profit groups who are unidentified, and these groups did not dispense those funds to victims. It's an interesting interview. And of course, this is all allegations. But if you want to look at that, just search Sue Pascoe, Pasco, California fire victims. And you could see the interview she did with Fox. Now, normally, I do not watch Fox. I do not watch any of these news shows. I get my news from independent sources that are not aligned either way. It's just the news. Just what happened. What the person said, and so forth. And then I go into MSN, I go into CNN, I go into Fox, I go into them all. Huff, The Hill, and I look for those same stories being reported from them and then look at it. And I can tell you, each side slants to their agenda. They present the facts and then tell you why their agenda is why these facts should be ignored or dismissed or should be propelled forward, opposing one political spectrum. So you have to be real careful when you do this. And like Bob in New York, I tell him all the time, don't keep going to the same place to get your news from. Look around a bit. And, He does. Well, like I said, I have to correct him all the time. And then he tells me, "No, you drank the Kool-Aid. You did." And I go, "Bob, this is what was on C-SPAN, or this was what they were talking about. Look it up." I don't have to look it up. And sometimes he does look it up, and then he comes back. All right, I have to look that up. I didn't think about that, or I didn't go there. And I go, well, that's the problem. You never finished your homework. All right. In another tidbit from the Wall Street Journal. In a foul-mouthed podcast tour, Hunter Biden warns Democrats he won't go quietly. And he was on a podcast, Andrew Callahan, on Channel 5 podcast. Well, a very angry, and I thought I'd get angry. But Hunter kind of went off the rails here. During more than 4 hours of interviews spread over 2 different podcasts, Hunter took aim at the Democratic Party establishment that forced his father to abandon his re-election fight a year ago, ending as what he called an epic political career. And that's Hunter saying this. He also scattered tantalizing details about some of the pivotal episodes that precipitated in the party coup. So he's calling it what I had called it from the beginning. It was a coup. He reported that James Carville, you know how I feel about James Carville, hasn't run a race in 40 effing years, he said, of the Clinton-era Democratic consultant. David Axelrod, Barack Obama's former campaign strategist, was a one-hit wonder who benefited from a generational talent. Okay. Hunter scoffed at the prospect of Axelrod helming a possible 2008 White House run for Rahm effing Emanuel, Obama's former chief of staff. Oh, there's the answer. Genius. Genius is all. Of Emanuel's supposed feel for the working class white America, he added, he said, "We got to understand that these people are really mad. We got to appeal to these white voters." Raheem, the only people that appealed to those effing white voters were Joe Biden. So, he is already threw the race card down, and Raheem has answered it. Then there were the hosts of the Save America podcast, a group of former Obama speechwriters and senior advisors who Hunter savaged. And this is a quote. As 4 white millionaires that are dining out on their association with Barack Obama from 16 years ago, living in Beverly effing Hills, telling the rest of the world what black voters in South Carolina really want. Yeah, Hunter, you tell him. And he goes, that was bad enough. Then Hunter went into George Clooney. And to his thinking, cut the knees out of one of the most successful sitting U.S. presidents when he said Biden didn't even recognize him at a Los Angeles campaign fundraiser the actor hosted last year. Clooney then urged Biden to step aside. Hunter's reply was, "F you, what do you have to do with effing anything?" Hunter raged about Clooney to Andrew Callahan on Channel 5 podcast. "We do. Why do I have to effing listen to you?" I don't know if Hunter said that or Biden said that. But that sounds like a Hunter rage. I don't know. Biden might have said that too, but one of the Bidens said it. Representative Clooney declined any comments, and others named by Hunter didn't respond to any requests for comments. Also coming in for abuse were the New York Post, the New York Times, Alexandra Pelosi, CNN's Jack Tapper, and the intelligentsia of the Democratic Party. Doug Schoen, a veteran Democratic pollster, spoke for many in the intellectual Democrats this week when he called Hunter's intervention completely wrong, misguided, myopic, and ill-conceived. And he said this was an action that only helped President Trump get out from underneath the light of Epstein. And he said Hunter Biden would serve his party and his father's legacy best by fading quietly into the background, Schoen concluded. So he's telling Hunter very nicely, shut up. A bemused Emmanuel, meanwhile, told podcaster Megyn Kelly that he appreciated his son's blinded by the love for his father, but said, Hunter's not the first call I'm going to make for strategy. So he took the high road and said, listen, the guy loves his dad. Figured his dad was stabbed in the back. And that's just me saying it. And he is venting. All right, that's good. But I ain't going to reach out to this guy and go, hey, what do you think about this? So that's pretty funny. John Lovett, one of the Pod Save America hosts, was less understanding and said, you should be ashamed of the ways in which you made your father's political life worse. He said on their show this week, and like the idea that you're going to listen to, that we're going to listen to you now. Like, give me an effing break. It's ridiculous. So, some, of course, in the left and in the younger group of progressives were energized by Hunter's aggressiveness and his rant. Hunter Biden said, every single word I've been screaming into the void for years. Zachary Kirk, a self-described activist and thought fanatic on X. The Obama holdovers, the Clooney consultants, the Pod Saves mediocrities. And there were people who said that this is just going to happen, and it's to be expected. With all the news coming out and the backstabbing and the political nonsense, this is what to be expected. But it just goes to show, in the Biden camp, the loyalists to the Bidens, they were really mad about how he was treated. I can't say I blame him, but Biden had to know it was coming. And those loyalists, if they were really that loyal to Biden, should have sat down with him and go, hey, you can't do this. We're cleaning up things over here and over here, and every time you're going out, we're cleaning up after you. If you don't pull out now, and this should have been way in during the primaries. Should have been before the primaries. They should have had this conversation with him. And they might have, who knows? And he goes, I'm the only one that can beat him. And he goes, now, I say, I told you I was the only one that could beat him, and look what happened. So no one can say that he's wrong in that thought because, I don't know, maybe he could have beaten Trump. Maybe Trump could have beaten him by 30%. We'll never know. But what we do know is that Trump won. And the Republicans took the houses, took the Congresses. So we have a pretty good idea of what America was thinking. All right? Okay. Trump signs order making it easier to remove homeless people from the street. The president's orders ask Attorney General Pam Bundy to reverse judicial precedents and end consent decrees that limit state and local governments' ability to commit individuals on the street who are a risk to themselves and others, according to the White House fact sheet. It also commits federal funding to move people on the streets who are causing public disorder and are suffering from serious mental illness or addiction to treatment centers, assisted outpatient treatment, or other facilities. Shifting homeless people, individuals, into long-term institutional settings for humane treatment through the appropriate use of civil commitment will restore public order. The text of the order said, surrendering our cities and citizens to disorder and fear is neither compassionate to the homeless nor other citizens. My administration will take a new approach focused on protecting public safety. Now, I don't know how far the state, because the state has laws on this, and those are state rights. Now, if he's saying he can make Medicaid available to them through federal funding through those states to put these people in where they need to be, that's all right. And he's not saying that he's going to incarcerate these people. They're not going to put them in jail. These are people that are, mentally ill or have drug problems. Force them into rehab, force them into a program. We used to do that. These people were not on our streets. And if they could prove that they're not legally a threat, there were public defenders, not even public, that there were people. My brother-in-law was one of those lawyers who represented people that were being managed by the state to make sure that their rights were protected and weren't overshadowed by the states. So I think that's a good thing. Anyone disagree with that? Of course, the idea is good. Show me how it works. I know I can tell time, but now you have to explain to me how the clock works. All the little moving parts. So with that, I'm going to say later, the show's going to go up by about 5:30 today, maybe a little bit sooner. The live show, of course, is live and goes out and is going out, and I'm still recording, so far so good. Give to a charity. Charity does be given at home, but pick a charity that you trust, that you know. And if you can give. If you're not comfortable with that, give to a food bank, clothes, anything you can give. That would be fine. Say a prayer. Prayer works. And with that, for my recorded show, I'm going to go to black. For my outbound show, live, I'm going to go to black and then come up with bars as I fade to black.